Anytime you guys are overcoming an objection, for me, I want to show the client that I'm on their side. I don't want to fight with them. If I make it confrontational where I'm saying, well, Mr. John, you do have time right now. We're going to handle it, right? That is that's combative language, and nobody wants to work with somebody who is combative. So you got to show the client that you're on your side. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Closers Academy here with my guy, Tony G. And guys, I'm super excited. As you guys can see, I'm about 4 shades darker. Okay, I just got back from Mexico. Okay, with our team out there celebrating at the Secrets Resort in Cancun, and it was such a beautiful trip, right? And we were able to go out there and celebrate with some of the top performers within the IMO. And guys, it was just a beautiful, beautiful trip to be a part of. And it inspired me to be able to have this call topic today, which is how do we overcome objections inside the approach, right? And give you guys some clear fundamentals on how you guys can be able to convert more clients into presentations. Now, Tony, you probably see it happening all the time where an agent will get a client on the phone, right? And their approach is atrocious, right? It's absolutely atrocious, and they wonder why they're not having more presentations. You see it happening
All
quite
the
a bit.
time, all the time.
And guys, one thing I want everybody on the call to understand is that when it comes to the approach, okay, it is by far the most important part of your presentation. Why do I say that? Why do you guys think the approach is the most important part of the presentation? If you cannot get into
Bam.
the home, you do not have a presentation. So, guys, guess what? No matter how good your presentation is, no matter how good of a closer you are, if your approach is not good, well, you might as well. It's like walking to the grocery store and you hungry and you don't walk into the grocery store. You know what I'm saying? You famished, but you just standing outside the grocery store just looking at the sign. Right? You need to learn how to be able to approach your clients in the best way possible. So today we're going to talk about overcoming objections in the approach, and then I'm going to also give you guys some fundamentals to help you guys improve your approach. So Tony, let's talk about the fundamentals to improve the approach. So the first thing I have right here is when it comes to the approach, guys, it is our main thing. It is our main job to set the tone within the first 5 to 7 seconds. First 5 to 7 seconds. When you call your client, the first thing they're thinking about is, do I want to continue this conversation or do I want to hang up on you? Like that's the first thing they're thinking about.
And they're definitely leaning towards the latter by far.
What 100%.
Definitely.
They are already ready to hang up the phone. They got the phone on speaker and their hand is right over that red button. And they're waiting for you to say something that's going to trigger them to hang up. So what are some things that triggers the client? Well, the first thing that triggers them is one, you sound like everybody else, right? Your approach sounds like everybody else. You're saying the same exact words, you're saying the same exact things that everybody else is saying, and it automatically triggers them to be like, oh, snap, I already talked to somebody from your organization. And they probably had a bad experience, most likely. They're going to end up hanging up on you. The second thing that triggers them is you not sounding like a figure of authority. You not sounding authoritative. You get on a phone call with your clients and it sounds like you're questioning what they requested. Right? Like you get on a phone call, you hear some people talk about like, well, yeah, Miss Betty, I think you requested information about final expense insurance. They may not even say I think, but let me give you a real example. You'll get a client on the phone. Some people get a client on the phone and they'll be like, "Hey, Miss Betty, it's just Jalen. Yeah, I just got your request about final expense insurance." When you do that little uptick in your voice like that, you just use the uptick method completely wrong, right, Tony? You used it
100%.
completely wrong.
100%.
Okay. And when you get the client on the phone, if you sound like that, guys, the client is automatically going to question you because you're not even sure about what the client actually requested. So let's set the tone within the first 5 to 7 seconds. Again, people will respond to how you sound before they respond to what you're actually saying. I want you guys to write that down. People will respond to how you sound before they respond to what you're actually saying. So it is very important for you to set a good impression within the first 5 to 7 seconds. When you get them on the phone call, they need to know who you are, what you're calling about, and you got to sound like a boss. Okay. You got to sound like a boss. You can't sound like nothing other than a boss. That's all I'm going to say there. Okay. You got to sound like a boss. All right. You have to also speak with a familiar tone as if you already spoke with them, right? When I call my clients, I want to call them with a familiar tone. I can still be authoritative, but I still want to make sure that I'm calling them as if I've already spoken with them before. I want to have them questioning and thinking that we've already had a conversation before about what they requested. So I want to stay away from words like, hey, Mr. John, I'm following up on your request. Every agent says that. Hey, Mr. John, I'm getting back to you about this request. I want to stay away from words like that. Another one is when you start to use the title as, I'm a broker, Lord, they're going to hang the phone up on you. You have to come a little bit different. So things that I like to use when I am calling my client is, again, I'm saying, hey, Mr. John, it's just Jalen. I'm an underwriter for this state. All right. I'm an underwriter. I like to use the word underwriter, because we are field underwriters, right? There are underwriters who medically see if the client is eligible for the policy that work with the carriers. And then we are field underwriters. It is our job to be in the field, talking to clients, speaking to them, to do a health assessment to see if they're actually going to get approved for the policy. So I'm an underwriter for California. Just getting back to you about your final expense request you sent in. You have to sound like a figure of authority in order for the client to respect you within the first 5 to 7 seconds. If you get on a phone call, okay, and you don't sound like an authoritative figure and you're not speaking confidently and with certainty, they're going to question if you are serious about your job. So again, speak with authority, speak confidently and with certainty. Okay. Tony, do you have anything you want to share on that approach?
No, you're hitting the nail right on the head. Everybody better be paying attention because you're hitting all cylinders right now. It's a big deal. But I know you're going to get into this, but your tone is the most important thing. How you are. It's not. I say this in training. I literally just said it last week. It's not even necessarily what you say. It's how they interpret, how they in their mind hear what you say and how they interpret it. Sounding weak is going to make them interpret the exact same words. You can say, Tony, I said the exact same thing that you said. I'm reading your script. I know. That's the problem. You're reading the script. So your tone sounds like a telemarketer. You sound like every other phone call that they've gotten that day. So it's you're hitting all the keys right here. Okay, this is gonna be good. I'm liking
it. Indeed. I'm telling you guys, when you understand that your tonality and your tone throughout your entire presentation, that is the key. It is the key to a successful presentation. It is not what you are saying, but it's the tone on how you're actually saying it, right? Let me give you guys an example. If I am talking to Miss Tracy, right? If I'm talking to Miss Tracy and I'm like, hey, Miss Tracy, your presentation sucked, right? Let me just come and say, Miss Tracy, your presentation sucked. Do you guys think that the way that I said it in my tone would offend her? Now, Miss Tracy, her presentation does not suck. But let's say, for instance, I wanted to give her feedback and say your presentation needed some freaking work. The chances are that Miss Tracy is going to call me back is very, very slim. Or want to do a coaching call with me is very slim because I just offended her. Now, if I wanted to change my tone just a little bit and say the same exact thing, and let's say I just wanted to have a playful tonality with Miss Tracy and still get my point across, and I'm like, hey, Miss Tracy, listen. Your presentation sucked just a little bit. It may need a little bit of work. You guys see the difference? There's a difference there. There's no difference when I'm calling my clients and I'm speaking and I come in on the phone call and I'm like, hey, Mr. John, yeah, it's just Jalen. I just had time to get back to you about your final expense request. I see you're located in Columbus. Don't let you get a veteran on the call. He can be like, not interested. Click. Right? Not interested. Click. However, if I get on the phone call and I come in with a figure of authority and I sound confident and I sound certain and I have a bottled up enthusiasm, right? A bottled up enthusiasm, right? A level of excitement to speak to them about what they requested. Not that excitement where I just won the lottery. That is where they will hang up on you extremely fast because you sound like a telemarketer. But if I have a bottled up excitement, bottled up enthusiasm, and I sound completely certain like I know they just requested this information and I sound confident, the chances are they're going to give me more time. So I get on the phone call and I'm like, they're like, ring, ring. They answer the phone. They're like, hello. I'm like, hey, what's going on, Mr. John? It's just Jalen. Just had some time to get back to you about your final expense request. I see you're located in Columbus. Is that correct? It hits a little bit different. Do you guys hear the rhythm in my voice and how I'm speaking? It does not sound like I'm reading off a script. I'm certain, I'm confident in what I am sharing. The rhythm in my voice allows for the client to receive what I am saying a little bit better. That rhythmic pattern right there allows for the client to pick up what you're saying. Is this all making sense? So when you're calling your client, have more confidence when you're calling them. Be absolutely certain that they requested information. Kendall, I don't care if you're working leads from 35 days ago. You still need to call them with absolute certainty and confidence in your approach. Okay, that is how you're going to get more clients on the phone. Tony, you have anything you want to share on that piece?
No, I was just going to say, don't if your scripting changes from age lead to new lead and everything else, that y'all don't understand, because our clients are our clients are our clients. I have people coming in that they didn't go into my CRM, but they are on my list. When I'm looking through my leads, I'm like, why didn't they do that? Because the CRM doesn't allow duplicates. When I put the name in, they filled out a form 6 months ago. So
Mm-hmm.
acting like you just talked to them, that is the only way. You got to keep your scripting the same every single time. Keep your tonality the same. Make sure you are pacing. I don't mean like talk to everybody the exact same, because you're going to have to, ebb and flow there. But you should know what you're saying every single time. That's what's going to bring the belief and the strength of not sounding like you're kind of sneaking in. And is it okay if we talk today?
100%. I'm gonna bring on Jada real quick. Okay. I'm gonna bring on Jada real quick because Jada, she's a little over close, approaching close to 40,000 so far for the month. And her best month has been close to about 25 to 30,000 in a month. And she had made this one change in her approach. And I just want her to kind of give some feedback on how it has helped her. So Jada, I'm gonna bring you in for like, I just need 2 minutes to tell us what changed for you when you started to make these small adjustments from the approach and being more authoritative from the beginning. So I just want to kind of have you give some feedback on that.
Okay, I guess I can give you a minute or two, Mr. Tally. I guess I can do that. All right. Did you want to do a role play or you just want me to?
Well, yeah, so I'm gonna do a role play with you, but the first thing I want to do is I just want you to give some feedback on, from working with Tony, working with myself, and working obviously with Nick and things of that nature on this, what was suggested to you, right?
Hmm.
Raw cut, all honesty, right? I need you to tell the people what were you doing before and what you start doing after to start seeing better results from your approach.
Easy. I want
Okay.
I want a disclaimer. I don't want you to tell them everything I said. We don't need to say that out in public.
No,
We're,
nah, yeah, yeah, nah. I ain't gonna say everything. It might scare people away.
that's right. But Jay's got thick skin. I will tell you, she's got some thick skin. She's gonna go far because she don't play. And I was very direct with her a couple times and she didn't even blink.
Yeah,
So I
I did
appreciate
not.
her so much. I'm glad, but I don't want to share them with everybody else because they might fall off. And
Sure thing. So first things first, my original opening, according to Nick Desatel, he said I sounded like the softest piece of tissue paper he ever heard in his life. I was like, "Yo, what?" And he immediately told me, "Come." He said, "Do you know how to scream?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he said, "Okay, well, let's give that a try." I said, "Okay." So y'all, my original approach was more so like this is not verbatim, but originally it was, "Hey Jalen, hey Jalen, this is just Jada. I'm the state underwriter here. I just had a second here to get back to you." That's how it started. Okay, it was nice. It was chill because I'm a pretty chill person. My voice is pretty chill. But
Hmm.
Nick said absolutely not. Nick said get on the phone and start screaming at these people. I said, bro, I couldn't, I wasn't understanding what he was saying to me. But then I said, you know what? Let me just listen to what this man is saying and try. So I changed it. So I started getting on the phone. I said, Jalen, that's all, that's my opening. Jalen, hey Jalen, this is Jada. I'm a state underwriter. I was just getting back to you about the request you submitted for the burial and final expense information. I just need to confirm that you are a resident of Ohio. Okay, awesome. Now I'm looking here on your form. I only see your name. You're just looking for something for yourself or for you and someone else.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't have a lot of time? No problem at all, sir. Listen, I don't have a lot of time either. This is going to take about 3 seconds here. I know you don't have a lot of time, so let's just make sure there's even a point for us to get back on the phone. First things first, go ahead and verify your date of birth for me. Okay, awesome. Now let me ask you this: are you a smoker or non-smoker? And I'm getting into it, and it catches them so off guard that they have no choice but to listen up, you know?
Mhm.
If somebody does tell me that they're busy or anything like that, I don't pay any of that any attention. The amount of sales I've gotten from a busy person, I'm busy too, Bookie. You know, I've sold people stuff when they standing at the bus stop waiting on the bus. But coming into the call like that has changed how you speak to each person. Similar to what Tony said, my script is not changing, but my approach does change depending upon the person. A man on the other end telling you he got all of this stuff going on. Yeah, yep. No, 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 no. I totally understand, Mr. Bill. We're gonna knock this out really quickly because I have business to handle this morning, and you submitted this request because this is obviously something that's important to you. So let's go ahead and knock these medical questions out so that I can get out of your hair and you can get out of mine. Is that a good idea? I figured it would be. And then immediately getting into it. And then after we get through the parts that are important to me that make them feel like this call is moving forward, then I'll double back and I'll say, awesome. Now go ahead and walk me through and tell me what had you looking into some final expense information. Okay.
Mm.
So
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So do you guys hear the difference between her coming on the call the first time, sound like she was like she didn't have much confidence, right? And now Jada's a very confident individual, right? But her switching up her approach allowed for the client to be like, oh, snap. Okay, this is someone who is serious. This is someone who's confident. This is someone who's obviously about their business, right? She's speaking with a level of urgency, keyword urgency, to get that client what they said that they needed and requested, right? Now, some of you guys are probably saying, well, Jalen, do I really have to scream at these people? Uh,
Yes.
yes.
Tony says yes. Okay.
Yes. Yes, you do.
Yes.
If you have to ask the question, the answer is yes.
Answer is
Everybody
yes.
else it doesn't apply to, but if you are asking that question right now, the answer is yes because you're too soft.
Tony,
Yeah. So
I would even go as far as to say Jalen doesn't have to scream at the people.
yeah.
Correct.
Jalen does not, but I do believe that it would benefit 99% of other people to scream at them because Jalen, you've done 5,000 more presentations than them.
Hmm. Yeah.
So you coming on the call, even though your voice is nice and chill, it's going to have a different effect on that person than somebody like me or somebody like Perla. So you don't have to scream at them. But me, Jalen, hey, Jalen, listen, I saw this request that you submitted. You know, I have to get down to business because, hey, I still got 4,000, I still got 4,852 presentations to do until
Yeah.
I catch up to Mr. Tally. So
Yeah,
yeah,
no, but that's actually really good. So even though like when you look at like the top producers, right? You see like a Clark Stanley, you see a Nick Dechatel who's doing 90 to $100,000 a month in sales, guys. Like the top people that I know who are doing very, very well, they have a very similar approach, right? In their tone, in their cadence, in their rhythm when they get the client on the phone. So one thing that I learned years ago was never take advice from somebody who's at the bottom of the leaderboard. Always take advice from people who's at the top. Why? Because they have the results. Why would I take advice from someone who's doing $2,000 a month? What can they teach me? Nothing. Not that they're a bad person. It's just they still got to go through their learning process, right? So if they're doing 90 to 100,000 a month, you go to a boot camp, you're definitely hearing Clark Stanley. He's in the front of the room and I'm 30 rows back and I'll still hear him as if he's right next to me. And naturally, guys, especially women, you naturally have soft voices, a very, very soft voice. Men are going to eat that up all day long when it comes to the calls. Okay. So you have to have a certain level of authority in your voice. So even though I'm not screaming at the clients, I still have an authoritative tone when I'm speaking to my clients on the phone. Like they know I'm about business. Okay. So Jada, I appreciate you for sharing that. Thank you for even role playing with that. I'm telling you guys, if you guys master your tone in the first few seconds, you will have less objections inside of your approach, right? You'll have less objections inside of your approach. And guys, I'm gonna be real. It's a lot easier to overcome an objection when your energy is up here than it is down here. Like, energy is everything. If your energy is down here and the client's like, yeah, I'm not really interested, you can be fumbling over your words. Don't come on the call. You don't want to come on the call mumbling. Okay. You got to have some energy when you're speaking to them. Okay. Now, let's take a pivot. Okay. Thank you, Jada. I appreciate you a ton. Okay. Let's take a pivot. Okay. We're going to pivot to some objections that I want to be able to go through with you guys. Do you guys know the difference between an objection and a smoke screen? Write this on your paper, guys. An objection is an actual, quote unquote, an actual, AKA a legitimate concern that prevents them from moving forward, right? An objection is just something, it is an actual concern that they have that prevents them from moving forward. A smoke screen is, like Jada said, it's a lie. It's the excuse a client gives you to get off the phone with you, but it's not the real reason. It's an excuse, okay, for them to get off the phone with you, but it's not the real reason. Anytime somebody hits you with a smoke screen, essentially, they are just responding subconsciously to your response. Subconsciously, right? Subconsciously is what I mean by that. They are just responding automatically on what they think they should say. That's like me walking into Saks Fifth Avenue and I'm like, the person come up like, you need any help? Nah, bro. I'm just looking around, knowing I need some help. I was in Target the other day, trying to go look for some new bins and baskets for my clothes. And the lady walked up like, do you need some help, sir? I'm like, nah, I'm good. Guess what? I couldn't find them dang bins. And I was trying to find her for the next 3 minutes to tell me where them baskets were. I needed help, but my subconscious mind automatically said, no, I'm okay. So let's go through these really quick. An objection, it's an actual legitimate concern that prevents them from moving forward. An example of this would be, well, Jalen, I am interested, but I don't believe I'll qualify. That is a legitimate concern. Why? Because they may have spoke to an agent and they got declined for insurance. Would you guys agree? Has that happened to you guys before? That is an actual legitimate concern. So I have to address that concern a little bit differently than an actual smoke screen. The second example will be, I need for my spouse to be present. For some, that might be an actual a legitimate excuse. The third one, if I don't want to give out my personal information. That could be a legitimate excuse too. Why? Because they probably got burned by somebody before. These are all legitimate concerns that need to be addressed in order for us to move forward. And if they are not immediately attacked and hit on, they're going to resurface later on in your presentation. My rule of thumb is this. Anytime an objection comes up, I do not want to sweep it underneath the rug. I want to attack it head on, and I want to overcome that objection and remove the concern to help bring that client's guards down. Most people, they run away from objections because they're like, well, I don't want to be confrontational. Well, why are you being confrontational in the first place? Overcoming an objection should not lead to you being confrontational. It should lead to you asking questions that made them have the concern in the first place. I don't believe I'll qualify. My response is going to be, who told you that? Well, the guy at State Farm said I shouldn't qualify. Well, Ms. Betty, that was the first problem was you talked to somebody from freaking State Farm. And I love State Farm. That's my car insurance. Okay. But I asked the question, right? I need for my spouse to be present. Okay, I completely understand. Does your spouse typically help you make these type of decisions? I don't want to give out my personal information. Okay, completely understand. Have you spoke to another agent where you had to give out that information before? Right? Anytime I'm overcoming an objection, guys, I want to ask a question to see what is the actual, why are they actually responding to me in the way that they're responding? I want to know what the underlying issue of that actual concern before I proceed. Again, this is where I always say human first, script second. I need to figure out what their concern is before I can move on to the rest of my presentation. Is this making sense? Now, a smoke screen. A smoke screen is this. Again, this is an excuse the client gives you to get off the phone. It's not real. They say things like, "Oh yeah, Miss Mel, I'm not interested." Yeah, you are. You filled out the freaking form. Right? Yes, you are. They'll say things like, "I'm just looking." "Oh, I need to think about it." What we need to think about? We just got on the phone. "Can you send me some information?" "Oh, Jalen, I'm busy right now. I already have coverage." These are all smoke screens that come up. Not the real reason. These are just surface level things that clients say to get you off the phone. How to spot these things? They hide the real concern with an excuse. I want you guys to write that down. They hide the real concern with an actual excuse. So you have to be able to understand the difference between a smoke screen and an actual objection. And when you know the difference between the two, it's a lot easier for you to help bring that client's guards down. If it's a smoke screen, push right through it. If it's an actual objection, like an actual concern, you want to probably spend a little bit of time there to diagnose what that actual concern is, and then you can proceed. Okay. Now, how do you handle both? Okay. How do you handle both? Well, before I do that, Tony, do you have anything you want to share on the smoke screen and the objections?
My philosophy is a little different because I've done this 5,000, to Jay's thing, 5,000 more times than everybody else. So when you were getting ready to say, I was going to go at the beginning and say, literally everything out of their mouth is a smoke screen. They're just trying to get off the phone. They saw a number come up. They didn't recognize it. Maybe they thought it was somebody else. As soon as they pick up the phone, as nice as Jalen's voice sounds and as smooth as he is, they're going, I don't know who this guy is. Can I get off the phone quick? So literally everything coming out of their mouth is just trying to get off the phone, which is why we don't want, in our opening, we don't want to give them anything to chew on. You don't want to say anything that they can argue with. We use the word like form. I'm looking about that form you filled out. Well, the generation we're talking to, this is a form to them. That means they filled something out physically with a pen, and they're like, I didn't fill out no form, and now you're in an argument. So it's
Correct.
little things like that you got to avoid. So for me, when I do training, I'm like, listen, you speak, and unless you've asked them a question, they don't talk. And if they're talking, you just talk over the top of them because they're being rude anyway. Well, I don't want to interrupt them. They're interrupting you. So everything is a smokescreen. Now, an excuse I had a college professor who said an excuse is the skin of truth stuffed with a lie.
Mm.
And that's the problem with new agents is you believe just enough of what they're saying. They're not bold-faced lying. I'm busy. Okay. But what are they really busy doing? Watching The Price is Right. They're just trying to finish the end because this is their favorite. And they've seen Bob Barker 14,000 times, but they're going to watch this one because they just want to get off the phone. So if you have that, it will affect, since we're talking about the opening, it affects your opening when you believe, this is why I do this day one of training. When you believe you are the most important person for them to talk to today at this moment, and if they get off the phone right now, I'm never going to be able to talk to them again. The dynamics change in that opening and how you carry everything, and everything becomes a smoke screen. They don't have enough information. You've already hit all of the normal ones that come up. They don't have enough information to give you a real objection. They don't have that. You haven't spoken long enough. In my opinion, for us as we're going through it, you got to be 20, 25 minutes in of data and getting back and forth with them for them to have a legitimate question about anything that's going on. Everything else is just y'all are feeling each other out. You're getting the information from them. You're making sure there's even a reason to talk, and you're establishing trust with authority and empathy. There's not a whole lot that should be questioning at that point, unless you create it. So, and I don't want to go off on a tangent because we'll be here for another hour, but
No, that's good. That's
it's the
good.
focus
And,
right there.
no, I love that. I love that. I love that. Yeah, you can actually, when it's looking at the smoke screen versus the objections, yeah, I can agree with you on that, Tony, right? We can have different philosophies and things of that nature on it, but I value your opinion on that so much, right? Um, because when you really think about it, right? Like if they filled out the form about life insurance or about what you have, right? If they filled it out and they come onto the call and they hit you with any objection. Well, guys, guess what? They filled out the form, so they know that they need it for some reason. They requested it for some reason. And it's our job to get to the roots, the root cause on why they requested that information. Right. So
I'm
I
going to
can
use you on this example because what you just
go
said
ahead.
there. The and going back to Jaden's 5,000, everybody on here can go last week and give an excuse that the client gave them of why they couldn't move forward or why they couldn't stay on the line. And we can go to Jalen right now, and Jalen's got dozens of clients that gave him that objection at the beginning. Anybody want to disagree with that? That's the difference. That's why we tell you got to stay in this thing. You got to get through. You've got to get through the numbers and got to get through the numbers so you hear it and hear it, and then you start after about the third or fourth time of going, wait a minute. The last guy I talked to from Louisiana said that, and now you're talking to some guy from Nebraska, and then 2 days from now you're talking to some guy from Colorado, and they all sound the same. You're going, wait a minute, this isn't real. And Jalen has it. I have that because we've heard it and been taken advantage of. And you're like, okay, now we're going to do it. So you just plow through it. You don't even listen to it and make it legitimate. Jalen doesn't flinch. That's why he's so smooth. He doesn't care. Not that he doesn't care about the client. He does care about the client. He doesn't care what they're saying because he knows it's just a knee-jerk reaction to him and the lady at Target. He goes, I'm okay. That ain't real. And we all know that ain't real. So that's the whole difference right there. You're hitting big time. This is key component. Whatever he's getting ready to say next is huge because he set that up there. Y'all need to get past this stuff completely and be able to take control of the call.
100%. And the way that you take control of the call is by asking your next question, right? Like that is the most important part of overcoming objection and overcoming a smoke screen, right? At the end of the day, the reason why I want to define the two is because there's a lot of people who think that they are getting actual objections when they're actually not. A smoke screen is just simply a lie. And we can categorize all this into a smoke screen, especially in the approach because they fill out the form. But what I want you guys to pick up on is the language that the client uses when they hit you with that inside the approach, right? Because if a client gets on the phone call with me and they're saying, I'm not interested, I'm going to push right through it. But there's a difference if a client gets on the phone call and say, well, Jalen, I don't believe I'll qualify. I need to spend a little bit more time there and see what is their concern on why they do not believe they actually will qualify for this plan. So I want to be very, very careful on when I get a client on the phone, and if they hit me with some type of objection or smoke screen, I need to be able to pay attention to what is coming out that client's mouth and how I can be able to address it properly. Okay. Now, how do we handle?
Sorry, I'm going to ask you if on that note, with Jalen's permission, I'll just share one line you can use no matter what they say. In that, because that's where it works right there. So I'm talking to Jalen, and out of the gate, and the first thing out of his mouth that he says is, "Listen, Tony, I don't think I'm gonna be able to get approved." Pause. Do not try and overcome the objections. Sit there and you ask one question. You can ask this to anything they say. I'm sure you have a reason for saying that.
That's good.
That's it. Because now Jalen's going to tell me, oh yeah, I talked to the State Farm guy, I talked to the Global, I talked to this. He's going to just tell me, and I didn't have the best way of getting information from people is not asking questions. We need to never stop talking without not having a question ready, but that's just to get them rolling. If you really want deep information, you make a statement like that and let them correct you or let them fix it. If they're yelling at you, you get on the phone and they're like, well, Tony, you're just a piece of crap. You're just trying to sell me something. Well, Jalen, I'm sure you have a reason for saying that. It works no matter if it's positive that they're saying. At the end of the call, this is the greatest call ever. I'm so glad you're my agent. Well, Jalen, I'm sure you have a reason for saying that. Well, because you took time and you listened. See how it works? You don't have to memorize 14,000 things of overcoming objections. But in this case, what Jalen's saying is the person made something that's legitimate. Well, I don't know what to say, Tony. I don't want to sound like I'm interrogating. That is true. Well, Jalen, I'm sure you have a reason for saying that. And then just shut up and he will talk and give you all the reason that you need.
That one liner right there.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that one liner right there is really, really crucial. And if you guys just notice what he did, right? Anytime you guys are overcoming an objection, for me, I want to show the client that I'm on their side. I don't want to fight with them. If I make it confrontational where I'm saying, well, Mr. John, you do have time right now. We're going to handle it, right? That's combative language. And nobody wants to work with somebody who is combative. So you got to show the client that you're on your side, right? Here are two things I want to leave you guys with. Number one, how to handle both of these. Again, human first, script second. The second thing is don't take things personally and get offended. Don't take things personally, okay? Remember, at the end of the day, you're probably getting hit with this objection. You're probably getting hit with this smoke screen. This client is probably cussing you out, yelling at you because they just requested information about final expense or whatever it is. and they probably had something devastating happen to their family, you have to come from a place of empathy off rip, because you do not know what that person is experiencing on the other side of the phone. Okay. You got to make sure you put yourself in their shoes to try to figure out what's going through their mind. So don't get offended. The AAA formula: acknowledge it, acknowledge what they said, agree with what they said, and assume. The assumption is always going to be the next part of the next question in your presentation to assume control, right? So the AAA formula: acknowledge what they said, agree with them, and then assume. Okay. The assumption again is going to be the next part, the next question in your script. Okay. All right, guys. Well, that concludes our call today. Make sure that you guys, if you're on the YouTube land, like, subscribe, send this to somebody who you know they need some help with their approach. Okay. There's a lot of people out there who need it. Okay. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and share this with somebody who you guys know need it. I appreciate you guys, and we'll see you guys next Monday. Thank you, guys.